right, so let's talk about the lab. So the lab is going to be really similar to what we did with the tic-tac-toe game. In tic-tac-toe, we didn't make any UI. We just made the model object that kind of backs it, right, and decides like when somebody's won or lost or what's going on there. This time we're going to do linear lights out. Lights out is a game which is traditionally two-dimensional, but we're going to do a linear version. And the way it works is when you click on a light, a button, it'll toggle its state, on to off, and it'll toggle its neighbors. So in linear lights out, you've got two neighbors, except for the ones on the end where you only have one neighbor. Let's go ahead and let's look at it in simulation, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make linear lights out with 13 lights. So what we've got here is we've actually got our 13 lights kind of in the shape of an R for Rolls-Holman. But really, you can just think of it as being in a line. It's just that just took up more screen real estate. So I put it in the shape of an R. The only thing that's confusing about that at all, so if I touch those all three change whenever I click on that guy, this guy, those guys change. The only thing that's confusing at all is just that there's no connection between these two guys that kind of appear visually somewhere. So it just goes up from the bottom, around, and down to here. And the idea of lights out is that your goal is to get all these lights to go out, right? So you're just kind of clicking around and trying to get rid of them. So here I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to win this game in 21 moves. Once you've won the game, you can't click on anybody anymore. You just have to click on new games, and then you get a new random set of lights. Depending on how good you are, it might go pretty quickly. It might not go very quickly. Here you can see I'm taking forever to figure this one out. There I got it in 15 moves. Sometimes mine turn out to be pretty easy, sometimes not so much. This one looks easy. I'll run it out this way, and I'll see if it actually turns out to be easy or not. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. 7 moves. Told you I'd get an easy one. So what we're going to have you do is we're going to have you open up. There's a Lights Out Lab folder, and then there's a Linear Lights Out Playground in it. Go ahead and open it up, and what you're going to find is you're going to find that it's got a lot of code for testing, and it's got a placeholder for where you're going to put the game. And you can actually see, if you look at this code, you can kind of observe some of the things that need to happen. So the idea is you're going to write your game, you're going to uncomment this code, and then it's going to print stuff on the right side as expected. I've, of course, got a solution handy here, so I'll just kind of show what it should do. So if you make the game, it'll print something for the game. If you give a description of the game, it'll have random lights on and off. So, if I hit an enter here, it'll just randomly pick different values for those. And then what I've done in order to test it is testing with random values doesn't do you much good. So I've actually gone in and I've actually kind of hard-coded a game board. So I've gone through and I've made them all on by default. So you've got some requirements on you, right? So you have to set yours up such that this code works, which means that under the hood, there has to be an array of bools. And the instructions will talk all through these details, right? And so here, if you click these buttons, that should result in a win right here. You can see that when you call press lighted index, it actually returns true if all the lights are now out, false otherwise. And you make sure things like if somebody clicks after the game's over, you don't do anything. So I've kind of got a couple little sample cases in here. So this one I just specifically turned on certain lights such that I could easily knock them both out and win in only 2 moves. So that's kind of the idea of the game. I mean, you should definitely go through and read the lab. I've got all the instructions in here, very similar to what I just said. And it lists the requirements just to try to make it clear what you're trying to do. All right, so that's the lab you should do. So after you work that lab, you should hopefully start to feel a lot more comfortable with Swift. Technically, we've been focused on just the Swift programming language. What we didn't really do much is show all the interactions with the Cocoa Touch environment. So Cocoa Touch is like all the things that Apple makes. So I mean, if you're looking at table views or segues, or I mean, there's a lot more. But now you should have a really good grasp of at least the Swift programming language. All right, that's it for this unit. Knock out that lab. See you next time. Bye.